Howdy there, ladies and gents. Yeah, I'm not gonna push that any further than it was. I was gonna make a trucker kind of thing, but little side story. First off, I don't look good in just hats. I normally just wear them backwards, and I don't wear them if they have the backwards like thing on them, so I don't wear those. Second off, little story before I start this. Yeah, we're gonna get into what the next series is. You saw the thumbnail, you already know what we're gonna talk about. I used to when I was younger. I was like maybe in high school, maybe just got into college. I used to take pop tabs when I finished drinking soda or pop or cola, whatever you want to call it. I would take these, and I thought I would look edgy and cool or brooding if I took them in my mouth and I just chewed the ends like this. See, like I'd have it hang out. But then, as I got older, I realized it's really stupid. It's dumb, and it made me look like an idiot. So, kids out there, anyone, few things to know. First off, you look dumb doing it. Second, it's probably bad for your teeth. And third, you look dumb doing it. So, yeah. Anyway, my story spiel is done. It's another Thursday. It's time for a gear talk. Time to talk about the new series we're starting in 2023. And I went down, thought about it. I actually had it figured out a while ago. I was just trying to make other ones to see what else would work. But it kind of came down to, and like I said, you saw the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about Gabe's Convoy, or the team we find in Tactics, or Gabe's Army, whatever you want to call it. I see it more as Gabe's Convoy, because you gather up like all these people, you get these vehicles, you have the Mammoth, the APCs, and you're kind of just driving around, I'm assuming like a convoy, and I just figured, like, it makes sense. It's a convoy. Gabe's Convoy. He's in charge. So, yeah, Gabe's Convoy we're going to be talking about. So, my plan for this one, it's kind of going to be the same as the Hive Busters, except there's a bit more that we learn throughout Gabe's Convoy. This is a prequel to the entire series. So, just like Judgment, this takes place before the events of the first game. As for Judgment stuff, I figured I'm going to figure out how to put together a list for that and how to do that for that series, but I gotta wait, because we have a lot of heavy hitters that come up in that one. Like, Baird and Cole are both prominent figures. Also Paddock, which he's still around at this point, so Paddock is also a prominent figure to cover. Like, there is a lot to cover with the Halvo Bay team with Kilo Squad. So at least with Gabe's Convoy, which I don't think is given a actual unit name, because it was very like low key, only given by Prescott. I believe it was just Gabe going through, getting an army put together to take down Ukkon, because originally it was assumed by Prescott, hey, you're gonna go in and kill Ukkon, and that was it. And Gabe was kind of like, you do realize, like, I would need a literal army to do this, which he didn't get, and Prescott said, well, too bad. The idea of the convoy was set up where you're going to go and kill Ukkon, but that completely backfired and went horrible to the point where it was like, okay, we need to run away, we need to leave and go and build our troops and our forces. And while Gabe does this, actually Gabe wasn't originally like the one who came up with this. Well, he came up with a plan to leave, but it wasn't until like they tried and failed against Ukkon. And you had characters like Mikayla and Sid, Tyrone and Marcella, which we are going to talk about them. Tyrone and Marcy are going to get their own video. I promise you that. They're probably going to get it together, because I ain't got enough to go just with them separately. But, you know, you had all of them come together, and the other Stranded and Cog that they had come together, where it pretty much came down to, yeah, this still isn't enough. We have Stranded, because this was literally right after the hammer strikes. So these were still pretty much civilians. Like, not even, like, trained Stranded or, like, they understand how guns work. No, these are civilians we're dealing with. It pretty much came down to Gabe's, like, they don't know how to fight. They only know how to currently survive. They don't know how to fight back. They don't know how to use a gun. They can't do anything. And the troops that they did come across, they were getting wiped out horribly by Ukkon, who was in the area, and his troops. So you had characters like Sid, who originally went and got Gabe, and when Gabe left with Sid and he came back, his entire unit was dead. Everyone was gone. So Gabe probably would have died if it wasn't for Sid. Mikayla, she's rounding up the Stranded, and they're pretty much making base at a Mammoth, which we'll talk about the Mammoth too in this series. Don't worry. But you have all of this together, and even with, like, you know, the civilians that are left in the area, the COG troops that they could find, which weren't a lot, really just Tyrone and Marcy were all that were left of, I believe, Echo 5. I believe you do find, like, a few other ones, but Tyrone and Marcy are the only ones that have, like, legitimate names and are carried over no matter what in all games. So you have them, and, like I said, essentially no troops, and it's kind of like there's Ukkon, and there's a Brumok that's going to wipe us out, which in my playthrough, for everyone who watched, and everyone remembering my playthrough of Tactics, which was a long one, hearts out to Tyrone, because, yeah, Tyrone died for me in that fight. I'm still not happy about it to this day. And again, like with Tyrone and Marcy, we are going to talk about them and their canonicity into the story, because we do come across them, and they are in every single playthrough you will ever play. So their canonicity, we will also talk about in their videos. They leave Davaskar, and it comes down to, well, time to build the army. And that's where we pretty much have everything happening. We're going to talk about probably in the series 2 of when it went from a COG-sanctioned team, a COG-sanctioned like Black Ops operation led by Gabe and Sid, to when everything becomes, we are now officially stranded. Because there is a point in the story where that line comes across, and we are no longer COG anymore. So at this point, everyone who's here is now officially a stranded. And as we'll cover with Gabe's stuff, because we will talk about Gabe, we will go into the books. I have not read that far yet, but hopefully by then I will. We are going to talk about how the Outsiders came to be, for how Gabe led his pocket of people. We'll go into what happened with Sid and Mikayla. We'll talk about them. And we are going to talk about the Locusts. Mostly talking about Ukkon, because Ukkon is a very prominent character in the story. He is the main antagonist. He is the monster creator. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about him in the comics, because he does come up in the comics when we first ever meet him. We're going to talk about the canonicity we have also involving Cole and Jax. I can probably just lay it out here. I should have put him in that canon discussion. Cole and Jax are not canon to the story. There is a mode where you are allowed to have Jax with you and play through with Jax. That didn't happen. Jax is not officially a member or was around with them. The original story carries out Sid, Mikayla, and I was about to call him Jace, Gabe. Those three are the original three, and Tyrone and Marcy, but those are the original three that go through the story. We are also going to talk about, I don't believe this is a real spoiler for anybody. This game has been out for a while, and also it kind of leads you to believe it because of the events of 4 and 5. We will talk about Reyna here. Reyna is a very prominent figure that we are going to be tackling and trickling into for the current events in the current games. So we are going to be touching on that. So for these, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, and it's very talked about, especially in the book Bloodlines, I believe. It is very, very heavily expressed. The events of the past are having effects in the future. Again, with Reyna. Reyna is introduced, and we know what's happening with Reyna now. Also, their child is Kate. The events of the past lead into the future. Ukkon. We have Ukkon and everything that he whipped up and he was doing. Ukkon is talked about in the books later on. So he's not playing a role into the future events, or he didn't create anything that happens, but he is mentioned and referenced. The things from the past are being brought up in the future. New Hope, we're probably going to end up talking about New Hope. That is probably going to be talked about. I will probably finally do a little area discussion on New Hope itself. What else are we going to cover, really? There's a lot more stuff I haven't gone over, but we're going to cover a few things. We are probably going to talk about Rustlung, and Rustlung is a very generic thing that has happened throughout the series. It has happened as early as even before everything that happens in Tactics. It happens way further forward when we have emulsion mining happening, and it happens all the way up to 17 AE. Now, even though that's when people stopped getting it because of Adam's machine, that doesn't mean people were just cured of Rustlung. You still did carry over symptoms of Rustlung. You were still affected. Your body was still deteriorating from it. So if you got Rustlung like one day before Adam's machine, you're still going to have it for roughly a few months to 30 years of your life. I mean, look at Gabe. Gabe still had Rustlung even after the emulsion countermeasure went off. He still had Rustlung. That was what killed him. John Harper and Barrick both had Rustlung. Even though they didn't make it to the end, even if they would have still had Rustlung. And both of them had a very strong amount of, not particles, but they had a strong amount of, everything that they breathed in. They were heavily affected with Rustlung. They are still affected. Gabe, as far as I'm aware, he did not have a heavy amount that he had inside of him. So his lifespan was a little bit longer. We're going to talk about all of that. The Locust, I believe the Vanguard, not the Vanguard, there's the units that were used in, the additional story that Jack was in, the red ones, those I believe, and I've talked about it before, I believe that they are canon, they just don't appear in the story. Like, obviously, it's technology and, like, bioengineering that, very obviously, that Ukkon could do, but Ukkon, I think, just didn't issue it in or deploy it, or he didn't have them with him at the time. But the units that are brought up in Jax's story, as far as I can kind of tell, those do kind of fall into the canon. So those, maybe, Jax is a definite no. So we're going to cover all of this stuff. Like, beginning January to I don't know when, because obviously the Hive Buster discussion series went for a while. We're going to find somewhere to talk about it. We will. Like, everything's going to be fit in. Everything's going to be talked about. I will probably be putting polls up on YouTube and also on Twitter to see where everyone kind of falls with how Twitter's been doing as of late. I don't know how long it'll be on that end. Maybe for a few longer years, maybe for a few months. I'm not sure. So for everyone also, I guess, plugging my own stuff, the YouTube community page is where I've been more active, and I've been posting more things, and I have been doing polls lately because I enjoy doing polls, and I've had more information put over there for things now because it's kind of easier for me to do. Everything's kind of in one place. I don't need to swap over to Twitter for things. I don't need to link things because I'm just on YouTube. So expect to see more things on the YouTube side. Twitter's still going to be a thing. I'll have polls on both. We'll see how it goes. We'll test this out. This will be the first time I'm going to be testing out a series on both ends to see how polling goes. So yeah, I'm excited for that. So I think that's going to do it. This is a real short one, just an introduction to what we're doing. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank everyone for making this possible, and thank the patrons for making this possible. Right now, the shirts that were currently on sale right now, the BCast Gaming Reunion and Kieselhorst Farewell Tour, those are almost out of the store. Everything is being closed off and taken out for everything with Sean on it. So if anything you want involving, well, that's me, anything involving Sean that you want, right now there's only a few things left. Get them before they're gone. Everything right now is limited time. Also right now, 12 Days of Fantasy shirts. Those are currently right now on sale. Those currently are 15% off. Use the code 15fantasy. It's also over on the store. The link is below if you want one of those shirts. Those are going to be going, once December 25th hits, those are gone for now. They'll probably come back up next year, but for now, limited time for that too. Everything is limited except for what is currently normally in the store. So, that's my plug. That's my spiel. Thank you all for watching. January's going to be a good one. We're going to be starting off strong with the new series, and we're going to go all the way, I don't know, 2024. I'm still working on that one. Maybe Kilo Squad, if I can get that list working. Maybe we'll do Kilo. Maybe I'll do Delta. Maybe I'll actually sit down and be like, okay, it's time to do the heavy hitters. Let's do the Delta Squad discussion series, which if we do that, I'm going to need some time in between videos. Expect like once a month for like the Marcus video and the Dom video. Those are going to be months in between. The Hoffman video took me a month to get all together. Expect some time. Expect some off the cuffs in 2024 if I decide to do that. So, thank you guys for watching. Love you all to death. It's going to be a good time. See you in the next one. Later.